Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into India's bold new strategy for a world that's, well, pretty chaotic. The goal isn't just to weather the storm, it's to become so essential that the world can't imagine functioning without you. Let's get into it.
Okay, so to really understand what's driving this new playbook, you have to look at this huge contrast playing out across the globe. It's really a tale of two completely different economic stories happening at the exact same time.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On one side, you've got India, which is actually seeing strong, stable growth. But on the other hand, the global picture is just messy. Politics are fragmented, money is flying all over the place, and new technologies are disrupting everything. It's pretty clear the old rules just don't apply anymore.
So what's behind all this global turmoil? You know, the basic ideas that held the world economy together for decades, things like predictable free trade, they're starting to crack. Let's look at the pressures that are forcing this whole new way of thinking.
Now, check this out. This chart shows this really fascinating and frankly troubling cycle called the QE infinity trap. For years, big economies pumped tons of easy money into the system. But instead of steady growth, it mostly just created huge asset bubbles and made inequality worse. And that, in turn, fueled a lot of social anger, which led directly to the populism and the trade wars we see today. It's a perfect storm showing how economic decisions can ripple out and create geopolitical chaos.
And here's another huge pressure point: technology. As you can see here, the AI boom is incredibly thirsty for power. The amount of energy that data centers are projected to need is just off the charts. People say the 21st century runs on compute power, and that has massive consequences for energy all over the world.
And all that demand for tech creates another problem: a mad scramble for raw materials. I mean, just look at this chart for copper prices. They're hitting all-time highs. We're not just talking about rare metals anymore. Even basic stuff like copper is becoming a strategic asset that countries are fighting to control. So, in a world that's breaking apart and fighting over resources, just playing defense isn't enough. India is shifting its entire mindset, charting a new path forward that moves through three very distinct stages. This is really the heart of its new economic game plan. The journey starts with a concept you've probably heard of: import substitution. The idea is pretty simple. Let's make the things at home that we used to buy from other countries. It's that foundational first step to becoming less dependent on everyone else.
But that's just the starting line. The next level up is strategic resilience. Now, this is a much bigger idea. It's about building an economy that can take a punch, whether it's a supply chain crisis, a pandemic, whatever, and just keep on going. It's all about security and being able to adapt on the fly.
And all of that leads to the ultimate goal: strategic indispensability. This is where you go on offense. The point here isn't just to survive global problems, it's to become so deeply woven into the world's systems, its supply chains, its technology, that other countries actually have a real stake in your success. You become the linchpin.
This table just maps out that whole evolution perfectly. You can see how the focus gets wider and wider, from just looking at one sector to the entire system, and finally to the whole globe. The entire mindset shifts from a short-term defensive, let's just make it at home, to a long-term offensive strategy of actually shaping and anchoring the world's supply chains.
So the billion-dollar question is, how do you actually do this? This isn't about shutting the doors to the world. The source material calls it intelligent indigenization, which is basically a very smart, very disciplined approach. And here's the blueprint. It's a three-tiered framework. Tier 1 is for the absolute non-negotiables, the stuff you have to be able to make for national security, no questions asked. Tier 2 is for things where it makes economic sense to build up your own capabilities. And Tier 3 is about being smart. For some things, it's just better to have a bunch of different suppliers than to try and make everything yourself. This is about being strategic, not ideological.
And what's really crucial here is that this isn't about becoming an island. This quote sums up the mindset perfectly. You can learn from anyone, even your rivals, without having to become like them or depend on them. It's all about autonomous learning.
Now, this is such a key insight. Pushing for advanced manufacturing isn't just about making cool new products. It's basically a stress test for the entire country. You can't be good at complex manufacturing if your ports are clogged, your power grid is shaky, or your regulations are a nightmare. It forces the whole system to level up. It doesn't just use state capacity, it actually builds it.
Okay, so all these different pieces, the tiered system, the focus on manufacturing, this idea of learning from everyone, it's all building towards one final, incredibly ambitious goal for India's place in the world. After all is said and done, what does winning actually look like?
What's the real end game of this whole journey, from just being resilient to becoming indispensable?
And there it is. The ultimate goal is to make the leap from resilience to influence. Think about it like this. A resilient country can survive a storm, which is great, but an influential country can actually help shape the weather patterns. You move from just reacting to the world to actively shaping it.
And this isn't just some abstract theory. You can see it in the data. Assessments like the Lowy Institute's Asia Power Index show this is exactly the challenge India faces right now. It has a negative power gap, which basically means it has a ton of economic resources, but it's not yet turning that power into proportional influence on the world stage. Closing that gap is what this entire strategy is about.
And we'll leave you with this final thought that just captures the entire vision perfectly. Strategic indispensability isn't something you can just measure in a report. It's a feeling. It's that moment when the world stops thinking about buying Indian and just starts buying Indian without thinking. That's when you know you've become a true global economic power.